Today we are having a three-way, despite Johnny and myself being in the same city, because this is currently happening. Don't know if you guys can see that, but the UK is thoroughly unprepared for any weather that's below 10 degrees. So there's currently a whole bunch of car crashes and everyone's snowed in around us. Anyway, today we are joined with Alexander Juan Antonio Cortes, someone who maybe some of you may not like this. Apparently he's a bit of a black sheep in the industry, but I think it's important for us not to censor ourselves for you. It's not our job to baby you as our audience, and you may not agree with everything that he has to say, but I've been following him for a few months, and I think I used to see you on the T Nation forums as well years ago, unless that wasn't you. But yeah, I think it's important to have the full spectrum of views here anyway. So, Alex, welcome to the podcast.
How you guys doing?
Very good. So we've seen some of the tools that you suggested to evolve yourself as a person, including deadlifts, red meat, the Bible, sprints, sunbathing, starry nights, getting punched in the mouth, good posture, pull-ups, and a pen and paper. So I think that kind of exemplifies the kind of stuff that you write about. Like, it's pretty, you've thrown your net pretty wide. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Cool. So
yeah, I guess to kick off with that, my Twitter persona is one that I cultivated that I guess starting around 2 years ago. One time I was very active on Facebook, like a lot of fitness professionals are, and I was somewhat ostracized out of the Facebook world due to a variety of reasons, but starting with probably the 2016 election in the United States, where early on in December 2015, I started telling people that Trump's going to win, over a year in advance before it happened. And that went the usual gauntlet of it cost me a lot of friends, a lot of, respect with people. So I migrated over to Twitter because, I realized at a certain point that even though obviously the Facebook fitness industry, there's a certain level of high school popularity essentially with being popular on Facebook, that I really wasn't reaching people. I wasn't reaching people, and I was not maximizing my ability I was not maximizing my ability in regards to positively affecting people and, changing lives, as everyone likes to, high-mindedly say, I want to change lives. And Twitter, for myself, I am a writer, and it was a very easy forum where I could reach people very quickly, very readily, very fast, and very profoundly. So the Twitter style of obviously the speaking, it's very pithy. It's very much sort of like maxims and axioms, and you get used to firing stuff off quickly, and content can go viral in a day. So those kinds of tweets, they make an impact on people. But at the same time, I had to divorce myself, my professional reticence of this isn't really explaining myself. It's just it's tweets. But then I get messages every day now. I've gotten thousands of messages the past year from people that they've read one thing or they've read a tweet storm, and that caused them to go off and change their whole life in some cases. So
I think that's an important thing to mention about Twitter, is that it forces you to condense the brevity that it applies on you, forces you to condense your views into something that's very very punchy and much more polarizing than if you had a larger character limit to kind of explain the nuance in your thoughts.
Mm-hmm. No, exactly. I mean, it has to be concentrated and it has to make an impact immediately. Like I said, I worked in the industry for a long time, writing the lengthy articles and wanting everything to be, very, very multi-perspective and fully explained. And that appeals to professionals because we want to approach this and, be multimodal and, think that we're very informed and, take these broad positions. But, for the average person that we're trying to reach, they need something that's effective and fast. And yeah, you can teach punchy, you can, but they're looking for useful information. They're looking for application. They're not looking to read a 4,000 word article that argues over low carb versus high carb. They want to know what's going to work today, right now.
What should I eat for my next meal?
Yeah, today what's going to work right now probably is that you eat mostly meat and have green vegetables and, like I said, sprint, deadlift, and get outside.
Get punched in the mouth.
Yourself. Right, get punched in the mouth, toughen up, learn what it means to be a man. And you do that, and you'll probably be in a better place, a year from now. Or I could present an article to you analyzing the 15 different variations on the deadlift, of which you're going to end up doing one. So where is my time better spent?
How did you know a year and a half in advance that Trump was going to win the election? I'm bursting to ask that question.
No, I knew a year and a half in advance because at one time I was very, very, let us say, liberal. I was very Democrat. I grew up in a very, blue household. My parents were Democrats. But I was also, I have always been a student of history. And it seemed to me that the more historically educated I became in regards to understanding that behavioral trends and ideas that we don't necessarily think about in society, the ideas upon which we act out in regards to our attitudes towards morality, our ideas in regards to our attitudes towards free speech, our ideas in regards towards sexuality. These things evolve over very, very, very long periods of time. So I take a very long view of history. Human civilizations rise and fall over periods of hundreds and thousands of years. If you understand that ideas go through patternized cycles of action, reaction, and evolution, then you can make accurate predictions as to how people will behave in the future. I'm not the first person to do this. This is a very good book that covers this is by Oswald Spengler, The Decline of the West. But he gets into this idea that civilizations go through a life cycle, and the ideas that a civilization is built around, they change with time. Generational theory, again, if that's another series of books if anyone wants to read that. But generational theory, Strauss and Howe, the two gentlemen that came up with that, same thing. They realized that human history, especially American history, goes through these very distinct cycles of spirituality and decay and neglected generations and so on and so forth. And I realized with the 2016 election that we were dealing with essentially a crisis of conscience, where we were at the end of a 100-year cycle. We had this deepening division of political attitude in the United States that was increasing and increasing and increasing. And the media narrative that was being presented was a fishbowl. It was not accurate. And I know that from living in large cities and having lived in small cities, there is a very great divide between people that live in a metropolitan area and the news, the narrative they hear, and people that live in a non-metropolitan area. It can be dramatically different. And those two sides don't account for the difference necessarily. Especially if you live in the metropolitan area, though. There's a tendency, if you live in a blue state, on a West Coast state or East Coast, that you assume that your way of thinking and being and believing is all that is, and it's not. So having traveled to the United States a fair bit and seeing different attitudes and seeing how certain ideas in regards to political attitudes had evolved, I realized that Trump was set up for a massive victory. Massive in the sense that it shocked people.
It was just a systemic thing. Yeah, I've heard Hegel talk about that as well. Where
it was systemic, and it was going to happen. And he was a master of persuasion. And the cognitive dissonance that it triggered obviously was immense. But as I tell people now when they're shocked, I predicted that pretty far out. And he's president now, and he's going to be president for 7 years. If you want to keep disagreeing with that, then feel free. But the day that you begin to deny reality is the day that reality will begin by its very nature to work against you. So, and you see that now today with people that are continuously upset and outraged for a year straight now, and they will continue to be so long as they think how they think.
You got this big bottle of "I told you so" 18 months later. So
I did.
Yeah,
well, that was a good day.
I've heard. So Hegel talks about this as well, where we vacillate between extremes over time as society is calibrating, and this was almost like a slingshot that was being pulled in the opposite direction and just has to recalibrate. Fair enough. So to lower the tone a little bit, Alex, would you rather gain $10 million or 30 IQ points?
30 IQ points.
Okay.
That's it. Yeah. Usually with 30 IQ points, I could just make the $2 million. To a level. With 30 more IQ points, I could probably make $1 billion. So I still plan to regardless. But IQ positively correlates with pretty much every predictor of life success. So, I can't imagine what it would be like to be smarter, but I imagine it would be pretty awesome. So why not that?
Okay, I like that justification. So
what's your
money's just money. You can always get more of it.
So on that note then, would you rather be a worried genius or a joyful simpleton?
Probably honestly a joyful simpleton. To contradict myself, but there is something to the effect that when you have a certain gratitude for life and that you enjoy yourself, you can die satisfied. I've known many, many, many an intellectual that is fraught and distressed constantly because they overthink bloody everything.
Just tortured by their minds.
Yeah, it's the intellect that's sort of in love with itself. That's why, on a certain level, I know I'm pretty smart, but I also have utter disdain for intellectually minded people that describe themselves that way. Just because I know both the superiority and inferiority complex that comes with it is a crippling thing for people.
So IQ points, but simple.
Yeah.
Okay. What are you on?
The key to life, I would say, the key to life in that regard is when you can have a very high IQ but live as if you're a simple person.
That's living the dream. Yeah, that's having your mind, your heart, and your body under control.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What are your answers?
I think similarly, yeah, that makes sense that the IQ points you can then leverage for more income, but you can't think your way out of being a worried genius. So
no, you're not.
What if the more IQ points just makes you more intelligent and therefore more concerned? In the same argument, if you're a worried genius, the more intelligent you become, the more aware of all the opportunities that you have, and the more annoyed you'll be at all the opportunities that you've missed before you gain the IQ points.
Yeah.
It could be. I mean, I know people like that. It could be. But I think if you have a certain level, a lot of people, ironically, this is one of the ironies of people that are, let's just say, not so bright. They tend to be very self-aware because you have to be, because it's the only way that you survive. So, those, I mean, this is going to sound, let's say this, people that are lower IQ, they tend to have much more wisdom than people that are higher IQ. Because they have to rely upon heuristics to get by, and they have to rely upon antidote, and they have to very much rely upon cause and effect. They have to live in reality. People that are high IQ come to certain advantages. You can have immense intellectual power, and there are privileges, let's say, to it. But at the same time, you can be an absolute idiot. So
it's a good
if
point.
you have that level of intelligence, you want to have the self-awareness of someone that is not so smart. Yeah, like I said, I've known many, many, many very, very smart people, but their level of self-awareness of certain things, it's hysterical in certain regards.
100%. It's the stereotype, isn't it? You got the
stereotype. It's like the genius nerd kind of stereotype.
It doesn't shower.
From living in Silicon Valley, I used to have clients like this. They probably had IQ, 130, 140, 150. Programmers, made a lot of money. These were men that were completely crippled by women. That to even approach a woman to have that kind of interaction, to be a man with a capital M, they couldn't do it. They overthought it. And then you could have a guy that's grew up low income area. He's kind of hood. He's got what I call ghetto game. He can walk up to a girl, start talking to her, and he doesn't give a shit whether she likes him or not. So so who's winning in that situation? The really smart guy, or the guy that doesn't really care and is not smart enough to know better? You tell me.
Good answer. Very complete. Is that all of we run through all the would you rathers?
There is one more. Just before we get into this this idea of ghetto game, because I do want to ask you about that at some point. Finally, would you rather get $1 million every time you win a round of Russian roulette, or $10 every time you staple yourself with a stapler?
I'll go with the staples, honestly.
Slow and predictable. Get rich slowly.
I mean, Russian roulette, we're talking about the gun, right?
Yeah.
You only have one chance to win or lose at that. I mean, you could argue you have 5 chances to win at that, but you only need to lose once to never play again. So the staple, I could probably leverage that in some capacity and then make $1 million.
So I'll tell you what's interesting, Alex. We spoke to Menno Henselmans, who was trained as an economist. We spoke to him last year, and we asked him a similar question, which was, you flip a coin, heads you get $1 billion, tails you die instantly. Would you flip the coin? And he was like, well, of course I would flip the coin, because it is a utility of $500 million on the expected value criterion, so instant death has a utility of 0. I mean, you wouldn't know about it, so it's perfectly neutral. You're just like, damn it, Menno, such an economist.
I agree with him. In theory, in practice, that'd be a really shitty way to die.
Flip the coin.
That's what I was thinking. I mean, I have immense respect for Menno, and this is not a statement on him, but I find economists to be fucking worthless. And they're usually wrong about things, but they're right about theory. So if you want to play that game where you flip the coin, well, I got the $1 billion, I'm happy for you that you did. If you die flipping that coin, well, death is worth 0. Sure, you died flipping a fucking coin. And everyone is going to remember that you died flipping a coin for money.
Yeah,
what does that say about you as a human being?
It's the impact, isn't it? Definitely.
Yeah.
It'd be a good story to tell. Good thing to bring up, like, if conversation dries up a little bit, like, I had this mate once who flipped a coin for money. Would at least start a conversation.
I mean, you could do that. I mean, I don't know what kind of legacy that would leave you with. No one's going to remember what you did.
You either become insanely rich or the subject of ridicule for the rest of time.
Yeah, for all of history.
I think I would
that way. What's the economics of ridicule? I don't know. Better go ask an economist about that. They should be well versed in it.
I would go stapler.
Yeah. Well, with the stapler, I can $10 is easy. I mean, stapling yourself doesn't even hurt, anyways. No, it doesn't. You could take that and I could probably leverage that into $1 billion within a year.
Oh God,
that's not that hard. $10 is you keep getting here's $100. Okay, put that in something. How much Bitcoin could you buy with that? A lot of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Or Litecoin. Or you could buy some shit coins and altcoins. But I guarantee you there'd be a way to capitalize on that.
Yeah. Just hit a bit every day. But you'd get used to it, wouldn't you?
You just end up with tetanus. Like tetanus upon tetanus.
Just clean all the staples before you put them in the staple gun.
Okay, so disinfect them all and then go for it so you don't get sepsis.
Make sure the staples just...
Like if you get shot in the head, tetanus or no tetanus, it doesn't really matter, does it?
True.
So I'd rather have tetanus shot in the head.
Yeah.
Glad we got those out of the way.
Yeah, definitely. So, Alex, I mentioned at the start you actually when I messaged you to say, do you want to come on the podcast? You were like, I'm happy to come on the podcast, but just be aware you might get some backlash for this. Why is that?
Oh, well, I got myself kind of ostracized from the fitness community somewhat in the past year and a half, roughly. Well, there's a few things. I can just run through them. Yes, so supporting Trump was one where, that cost me some friends, definitely. Trump won, so that cost me more friends. Then I made a racist joke on Facebook. This is gonna sound bad, no matter how you cut it. You remember the gorilla Harambe?
Yep.
Remember Harambe? Okay. So Harambe's dead. God bless his soul. So I need to put some context to this. So I have a Twitter following. Okay. A large percentage of my following is black. Cool. When Harambe, when that happened, it was a running joke on Facebook, or even a running joke on Twitter. The kid fell into the enclosure. So a lot of my following, they were joking around that white people take their kids to the zoo, and this is what happens. They drop them into the enclosure. It was funny. It's racist. It's racial. It's funny. When it turned out the kid was black, well, then the joke became, oh, the gorilla must have thought it was a black. The gorilla must have thought the black child was like a baby gorilla. That sort of has got run with. I was cracking up when I read that, and again, if you're on Twitter can be a pretty brassy place. So the joke was the Niglet child fell into the enclosure, and the gorilla thought it was a gorilla baby. That's why it went after it.
I see.
And I imagine.
Well, I made that joke myself on Facebook, and if you notice, I am not black, and that did not go over very well at all. And I admit it was definitely in pretty poor fucking taste, but at the time, there was a sense of humor about it that I thought was funny, but I have a pretty terrible sense of humor. And then when I realized, wow, I really fucked up saying that, well, at that point, there was kind of like a social justice mob that had gone after me for it. And I refused to apologize, since I don't apologize to crowds. So that got me kicked off some certain circles and cost me some jobs, which, fuck you all, I'm not apologizing for that still. So that happened, and then the other incident that happened was that I got accused of plagiarism, which this was, I will admit, I would consider valid. So Mike Israetel, who's a popular guy, If you, I don't know if you heard him or not. Anyway, he's a popular guy on Facebook. He made a post regarding weight loss. It was a pretty short Facebook post. It was a prescriptive, lose 1 to 2 pounds a week, do that for a few months, cut, strength train while you do it. That was really the whole Facebook post. And that was pretty much in line with what I recommend to people. It was just the same thing, more or less. I was like, oh, that's cool. And then I sent that out in an email I sent. And I didn't credit to him because, my vein of thinking, I was like, it's pretty much what I say myself. So, but I like the way that he listed his 4 bullet points. And then that email got shared publicly by somebody, and the wording was similar enough. And then I got accused of plagiarism. And then that I had to just admit to, where I'm like, that did look like pretty much stealing, and I get it. I mean, that's not it's perhaps not intellectual theft in the idea of it being an innovative idea, but it looked like stealing. And then that was sort of the final nail in the coffin, because at that point I was a racist, plagiarist, Trump supporter. So that cost me. Let's see. I had a position ranked for the FTS. I got let go from that. There were some other positions that there were some other writing jobs I had where it's basically like, you're not writing for us anymore. Since my Facebook reputation was pretty trashed at that point. And the Facebook reputation for the fitness industry is kind of like everything to people. So at that point, I was like, fuck you all. Obviously, now I'm operating on Twitter. And then, Facebook actually deleted like 3 weeks ago. But, that's why I mentioned to you that having me on might be controversial for some people, since there's a few people in the industry that I know hate my fucking guts.
That isn't. See, I was unaware of any of that drama, but imagine. Well, I'd imagine in a way it's quite liberating. So Johnny and I used to work for sort of large financial companies, and there is a lot of pressure on you to maintain a certain level of acceptability. And so moving from that to being self-employed and being able to just be a little bit more authentic with your expression is really liberating. Mm-hmm. So I imagine once you're freed from the shackles of Facebook and you think, right, well, I may as well double down on this and just...
Well, I mean, like you said, it was liberating, and at this point, at this point in my life, I have sabotaged myself. I have been to jail. I have been incarcerated. I have blown up my fitness career more than once, both in the corporate world and, I guess you'd say, my online reputation. I trashed that, and I am the happiest I've ever been. My business is the best it's ever been. So if anyone has anything they think they can hurt me with, by all means, go ahead. Go ahead and try. And the other thing that allowed me to do too was that there's a lot of subjects relative to how I live my life where I got into talking about masculinity. I got into talking about the role of let's say testosterone decline in social forces of society. I got into a lot of subjects there. So, always outside the lane. Personal training, you don't talk about that. We stay in our lane. Fuck all that. I talk about what I want. And once I was able to do that, my business, what I do has gone to the absolute next level. So, it has been very freeing.
Is being polarizing online or trying to, or not necessarily trying to offend people, but not necessarily being careful about what you say? Is that a very deliberate thing? Is that something that you set out to do, or is it just part of your personality?
I've always been that way. A friend of mine, Swede Burns, he has a quote that I like, a mantra of sorts, but everyone is not for everyone. We live in a society today where trying to make yourself well-liked by everybody is the most direct way to be an absolute liar. So if you want to, I've always had a strong personality, I just have. And it was not my goal so much to offend people, but like I said, the way that things have gone today with how we get along with each other, if you hold strong views or just you have a way of being about you that is very firm, it's going to make somebody dislike you. So you can either accommodate yourself to people who would not like you anyway, or you can be yourself, and whoever your audience is who your audience is. I have a phenomenal audience. I love the audience I have. I love my email list is, they're excellent people. So, like I said, it's not so much the point of, let's offend people for the sake of offending them, but, take yourself to, if you are a polarizing person, then you should embrace that. And that I have embraced.
So, I think that goes socially as well. And in most situations where, because Mark Manson talks about this as well, where it's like, if you are the most polarizing you can be from the outset, provided that you're not like running around with your pants down, then you accelerate the process of somebody who wouldn't have liked you anyway getting to that point quicker, or someone who would have liked you becoming a huge fan of you, rather than just being this kind of uncontroversial, mediocre person that's really, really well polished.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. I mean, it's interesting to me. Like, people underrate social media. They do. We underestimate the power of these things. But since I've been on Twitter, I've made very good friends. People that are real friends that I've gone and met in person. And it's genuine friendships. When I was in the fitness industry trying to get along with everybody, I made a lot of friendships that I don't talk to those people anymore. And when I had my blow-ups happen over the course of a year, the number of people that I dropped me off the radar was immense. Versus I took a trip last year for 4 days where I was not on social media at all. I came back to hundreds of messages from people that were concerned, wondering if anything had happened to me. Just massive disparity. So if you can make it your aim to cultivate authenticity around yourself, and that comes with like you said, just be as polarizing as you can be from the outside. Be the most of yourself that you can absolutely be from the very beginning. You will meet people that you can be real with, and you will make relationships that are real, concrete relationships. If you want to do the slow, let's try to make each other like each other approach, you're both going to be deceptive.
People talk quite a bit about the different social media platforms having a different feel to them. So I think certainly Facebook compared to Twitter is a lot more regulated, and things get shut down and removed. Twitter just seems to be whatever people want. Like there's porn on there. There's any content goes on Twitter. Are you on anything else? Are you on like YouTube, Instagram, anything?
I have an Instagram account, which is it's not nearly. I don't put nearly as much time to as Twitter. It's just it's pictures. Instagram is great if you're an attractive girl, that's kind of whorish. You can grow a following within a month. You have 100,000 followers. Twitter is fast. Anything can be said on Twitter, and I find it more versatile than Facebook because Facebook it's community. And you kind of have to act correctly because Facebook has that feel to it because of the way the platform is constructed. Twitter, it's just a feed that runs nonstop. So Twitter, I think, has the most. Twitter's variability is kind of infinite in that regard, where you can cultivate a feed where, like my feed, it's all about self-optimization, self-improvement, masculinity, bettering yourself, making positive change, just being a man of action, being a man of purpose, being someone that contributes to you in community. It's very, very aspirational. My feed and the sphere that I fall into on Twitter is that way. Inversely or in opposition, you could go into outrage Twitter or political Twitter, or you could go down the path of sex Twitter. So it's almost really anything that you want it to be. I have found it a very powerful tool for growing my business. I've been able to my email list in years gone from 0 to almost 10,000 people, in not even a year and a half. I've gone from no followers to 25,000 followers. In terms of income, you can do the math. Like if 10,000 person email list, that you can sell a lot to 10,000 person email list. Same thing for articles and publication. My website, like fueling the growth in that traffic, that's massive. I've been able to get in-person clients, even people that want to fly out to see me, that will pay the big money. They want a 3 or 4 hour session and assessment, all these things. Same thing for being a source of online business, coaching clients. So the tool is only as powerful as the sort of the imagination of the user. A lot of us, when we use social media, we tend to think of these things on a very small basis, where we're either indulging ourselves, or maybe we're going to go find a conversation to be a part of and feel like we're accepted. Facebook's that way. Twitter, I realize though, it's just advertising, promotion for yourself 24/7. Plus it's community, plus it's authenticity. Plus it can be a way to network. So there's no. How should I say? There's no boundary, to what you can create from it. So,
are you continuing to get backlash from Twitter and from your current presence now that you've left Facebook?
No. Twitter is awesome because if I was to share what I just shared with you on Twitter, which actually I have, something shared with the email list, no one gives a shit. It's because it's not a community in that sense where people are expecting you to behave according to the morals of it necessarily. What would be disappointing to Twitter was that if I started sharing this like stupid content, or if I changed my content around where I started just cracking jokes and didn't share anything that has to do with my current content matter, Twitter is, in a way that you can create a persona and character on there that is actually more real to yourself, where, in real life, people, if you make a mistake and you have some sense of self-awareness, people will be forgiving of it. It's not the it's not the correctness community that exists necessarily in Facebook, in that sense. So Twitter is that way, where Twitter is very accepting of mistakes, and that happens all the time with public figures. People will tweet stupid shit, or maybe you tweet, maybe you just tweet, typos, or your link's broken, or you share, share your bullshit that way. In Twitter, if you cultivate and construct yourself with some sense of realness, okay, oh well, you fucked up, big deal. I've said multiple times on Twitter that I've been an ex-con and I'm technically a convicted felon. No one gives a shit. On Facebook, that was a running insult to bring that up in conversation. So, different medium.
That is interesting. So, I've noticed. So you said as well, you've gained this email list, you've gained the followership, and you do the live streams as well, and you get a lot of people asking you questions. What's the most common kind of problem, the most common challenge that your clients face, and that the young men following you face?
Yeah, it's the search for meaning, in all honesty. I mean, it's the kind of the question that every personal trainer has when you have clients, and like, why do I need to be healthy yet? But I know I need to, but what is it for? But everyone is trying to search for meaning, and everyone is trying to sense for some sense of purpose, and we want to know that if we are doing something, that it is meaningful to us, and that it is going to have a positive impact, and it is going to have some benefit beyond the hour in which it's done. So I'd say the running theme with all the questions from the young men, and also I feel a lot of young ladies follow me too, is they're asking questions and they're trying to make sense of their actions, and they're trying to make sense of what they should do, and whether it's fitness or health or masculinity or talking to girls or talking to men or relationships or anything else, we want things to be good. And essentially what is good usually is what has meaning to us. So I always consider it sort of it's a crisis and a void of meaning in that regard. Even if it's something as simple as like a training routine. What's a good chest workout to do? I could tell you what a good chest workout is, but like context. Why do you want that? Well, I want to be muscular. Why? Because I think it will do something for me. What do you think it will do? And when you address those things, then getting the foundational first order knowledge stuff down. There's different stages of information knowledge. First, second, third, you could argue fourth order. But that foundational knowledge, the simple stuff of exercise and routines and programming, you need to learn that. But the effects it has in the second, third order of your life, that's really what you're going for. No one does deadlifts just to fucking deadlift, unless you are, I guess, professional powerlifter and you hold a world record, and in that case you are deadlifting for a reason. But even then, why are you deadlifting? Well, probably because you like setting the world record, and you probably have some stats and a claim from that, and you think you've accomplished something. So no one does anything just for that thing. There's always a higher purpose to it.
So when you're answering those questions, is it just helping people to go a level below or several levels below where they're currently thinking about these things? Yeah.
There's a catchphrase. Mm-hmm. There's a catchphrase of mine I always use where I'll tell people you need to back it up 10 steps. Don't ask second order questions when you have first order knowledge. For a lot of people, it'd be something. I'll use that example again. What's a good chest workout? Before I answer that, can you do push-ups? No. Mm-hmm. All right, maybe we need let's back up 10 steps. Maybe we need to learn some things. Same thing with diet. What's a good diet? Qualify what you mean by good and what you mean when you say the word diet, because I don't know. So my answer could mislead you or it could be helpful.
We get exactly the same things, like, should I be taking beta-alanine or should I have creatine pre or post-workout? And you're like, are you tracking your calories? No. Okay. Well,
okay.
Do that first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's like I said, there's always that first order stuff that has to be taken into account. Otherwise, certain suggestions where you can tell people, like, should I have a protein shake after I train? Yeah, sure. But then it's like, well, what has protein in it? All right, let's back this up. Do you know what protein is? Fat, carb. Can you differentiate between carbs and fat? Is rice a fat or a protein or a carb? If you tell me it's a fat, I'm going to be worried, but that's usually the situation. That's why oftentimes I end up either having to explain stuff in very simple terms, or I'm recommending people do some reading where they can, learn these, foundational things. Yeah, and then we can actually start, having a conversation, getting these steps in order.
It's really common to see someone with a very advanced query or worry when the basics are way off. Do you think that's the fitness industry's fault, or is it the wrong information being put in front of the wrong people? Why is that such a prolific thing, in your opinion?
Yeah, I don't know that it's the fitness industry's fault. I think it's more so you could say the fault of society, in the sense that because we have such instantaneous access to information, and because the educational system, I would argue, trains people to think like automatons, not autonomously. You have a situation where people just expect things to have a very much yes/no answer. So I call it's A and B thinking with A to Z subjects. It's either this or it's that. No, it's not. It's not that it's either this or it's that. It's that it's this dependent upon this in regards to this relative to the situation of. So you're trying to, people have this expectation, I realize, not just for fitness, but almost all aspects of health, and even the way we ask questions, where we want to define things in very simple yes and no terms, because that's a very easy way to think. It doesn't really require much thinking. What should I say to this girl? I don't know. What should you say to her? Well, should I say this line or this line? Okay. Then again, you have to back it up so many steps. So a lot of people, it's not necessarily people don't want to think for themselves, but they've been trained to think in this way. It makes life difficult because you end up, making these very consequential choices you don't really understand the gravity of, and then trying to learn anything, it can be a kick in the face because you realize that you really don't know shit, and then having to confront your ignorance, which is vast and infinite. Yeah, it takes a lot of work to change yourself. It does. That's why most human beings get stuck on various aspects. Self-help and self-improvement is a big industry. All aspects of life, whether it be cars, money, finance, fitness, being married, being in relationships, sex, how you dress, work. There is a self-help, self-improvement industry for all of those things. Everything. There's probably a self-help industry for fucking podcasting. Like, you can get online right now and look up how to do a podcast, and people get discouraged from podcasting because, oh wow, I have to set up a split screen. That must take some technical know-how. And maybe my computer, maybe I need to use a microphone. And you know what? I just discouraged myself because I wanted this to be something where I could do it in 2 minutes and not have to learn anything. Now I have to learn 10 things. Shit.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so I was going to ask you what do you see as the biggest mindset problem among the people that ask you questions, and you've kind of answered that, which is focusing on tactics rather than strategy, and not looking at the second order, the under the foundational stuff. So, speaking of which, you said that there's an industry for everything, including what do I say to this girl? Should I say this line or this line? I really want to hear your thoughts, Alex, on the pickup artist community, because this is something that I've got friends that dived into this pretty hard, and it definitely worked for them. And it seems like it's so systematic, but some of them, one or two of them who I know that were kind of on the verge of depression, it actually worsened things for them because it created this divide between the person that they felt like they had to be, the mask that they had to put on, and who they actually are, and it exacerbated that distance, or it highlighted that distance to them.
Mm-hmm. Well, the pickup artist game, I wrote an article about this, and I'm not a PUA person where I'm doing pickup artistry, trying to get laid every single night. I've always had very good relationships with women. I just have. I'm a tall guy. I got long hair. I know what I look like. So that part is easy in that regard. Women find me attractive, great. But with pickup artistry, I find that you have to take sort of this meta approach to it, this broad view. For a lot of men, they want to have relationships with women, but that initial approach and that conversation and just that comfort, it's uncomfortable for them. So pickup artistry gets misconstrued by people as this idea, well, you just want to have sex with as many women as possible. Yes, some guys do want to have sex with as many women as possible. Every guy, you could argue, wants to have sex with as many women as possible. But for a lot of men, it's learning essentially, it's really just learning social skills and learning how to be charming and learning how to have a conversation. And then they can take that and then they can have relationships with women, and it opens up the world for them that way. But then you have men though where they have no actual ability to have a relationship with a woman. They have no actual ability to have a relationship with a woman. They cannot relate to women, but they still want sex. So for them, it becomes just about sex. And then they, like you said, they fall into this kind of depression. And I've seen that in pickup, PA community, where it's just, that's not an uncommon incident where guys, they essentially learn how to talk to girls. They learn how to charm them into the bed for a night. It doesn't go beyond that, and they still have this complete void of human relationship. And then it becomes this, this very much this, this crisis where, okay, I know how to say these things to create this event, to create these effects, but I have no personality beyond that. And interestingly enough, the progenitor, so to speak, or at least not the progenitor, but the popularizer of game, Neil Strauss, who wrote the book The Game. So who was he? He was a goofy, relatively middle-aged guy, short, bald, not physically attractive, wanted to be with women, obviously, didn't know how, didn't have the social skills, learned game, got the social skills. So now he's hooking up, he's getting laid. Women want to talk to him when he goes up to speak to them, somewhere, because he knows what to say. What ends up happening? Well, what ends up happening is him and all of his pickup artistry buddies, kind of all at the same time together, they start falling into all these, like I said, these conscious crises where they know how to get girls into bed, but they don't have a relationship. They don't know how to have a relationship. They don't know how really actually to relate to women in any way that's effective for them to have a bond. They don't know how to manage female behavior at all beyond the night that they meet them. They still are practicing. They still are falling into like these sort of like what's called like blue pill mindsets where they act really alpha when they meet the girl. They turn to a chump on day 2. So they start having all these hysterical, behavioral fallouts and blow-ups, all of them together, in these different ways. And he realizes, he realizes to himself, he's like, I have no personality beyond these psychological tactics I employed. I know how to say these things, and I teach these guys to say these things, and we can hook up in one night. But then beyond that, we don't know how to actually be ourselves. There's this massive divide. And everyone is kind of, if you read the book, it's a very good book. The book is not what anyone thinks it is. People, because the book, it's called The Game, and they assume it's about it's just about these dudes who must be being dogs all the time. It's really not. It's an intense psychological study in human behavior where you can see where a man can present himself as a certain way, but then completely have a gulf between who he acts like and who he actually is. And if you're going to be in a relationship at all, that's why I talk about relationships, whether it's a fun thing or something serious, you have to be authentic with somebody and be comfortable doing that. And, the pickup artistry stuff doesn't really necessarily teach you how to do that. And for your friends that have gotten super depressed, I've met guys like that. They can go out and they can have sex every single night. They have no one that loves them. They have no ability to say I love you to somebody else. And their complete view of nihilism in the world and themselves has gone complete. They've run into nihilism. They've run into nihilism and cynicism, and they're deeply unhappy about it. It's not a complete theory, I guess you'd say, in that regard. Pickup artistry is a subset of development in which you should learn game as a man because you should learn how to be able to talk to women. One, so you don't get yourself in trouble and get called creepy. There's that aspect, especially in today's climate when anyone can be accused of anything. You can look at a woman wrong and she'll call you a rapist. So learn game because you learn how to talk to women, and then learn game because it teaches you about human behavior. That's why you learn it. If you want to learn it just to get laid and nothing else, then you're going to adopt that persona and adopt that way of being, and that might not be to your satisfaction in a few years.
Fair enough. I suppose I'm being a bit harsh on pickup artistry because even in the name, it doesn't promise anything beyond picking someone up. It could be called being good at a first date, and but beyond that, yeah, as you said, you've got to do the fundamental work on yourself. Otherwise, this gulf, which I like that phrasing between what you are and what you've put yourself across as, starts to become obvious.
Yeah, it definitely does. I mean, the pickup artistry stuff, it's funny because it gets highly demonized by the media. I mean, it does. Because we have double standards in regards to sexual behavior, in regards to male behavior. But we have a generational sentiment of women who have been fed the opioid dose of angry feminism. So there's this resentment that how dare men talk about how to have sex with women and talk to them. But at the same time, there's also the cultural sentiment now of the Me Too movement, where how dare a man speak to me even in a way that I slightly don't like, and that's going to be construed as sexual assault in some fashion or another. So it's very hysterical now.
I don't think the criticism of saying it's manipulative is valid, because everybody is manipulative in every interaction that they have with every person in some way. Everyone has an agenda and is trying to achieve something. So I think to say it's manipulative as a grounds on its own for a criticism is not quite valid. It's about what is the consequence of it, really.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a lazy criticism, a lot of ideas that we deal today, like there's this intellectual laziness to criticism in general. Something like men wanting to talk to women to be successful with women. If I phrase it that way, that sounds very reasonable. But if I call it pickup artistry, like, well, yeah, that now has some hot connotative attachment to it now, but makes it a charged term. At the same time, I mean, I'm not the first person to say this. Like, in society right now, like, what do you want to be? Do you want a society of men and women that don't talk to each other out of fear of the consequences, or do you want a society where men and women are able to talk to each other and enjoy each other's company? Because you can't have it both ways. So either men can learn how to talk to women. It's called pickup artistry, or it's called a game, or it's called human behavior, if you want to call it that. Women can learn how to talk to men. But then to imply that women need to learn how to talk to men, well, that opens you up for criticism as well, because how dare you tell a woman how she should act? So, you're kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't.
Do you think because it's giving... so, like, in a scenario where there's a guy who is maybe doesn't really pay any attention or care to himself, maybe isn't that interesting as a person, and naturally doesn't come across as attractive, so is experiencing these problems with confidence, etc., it's almost giving him the skills to elevate to the position of someone who has worked on themselves, is confident, does exude these things that are attractive. So do you think it's the disparity that creates the negative feedback for it as a community?
It's a disparity, but it's also just in regards to, I find it hypocritical, but men that want to have sex with women are criticized for wanting to have sex with women. That just, it happens, and anything that's built around that desire is criticized. If you called it men that want to have good relationships with women, it would probably go over better. Yeah, I approach this as an inner game approach, where if you want to be attractive to women, you have to be an attractive man. What is an attractive man? Be interesting, be compelling, be fit, have a fucking job, have a car that works, have things to talk about. If you do those things, then the game is kind of a natural subset of that, where, okay, you have these good qualities about you. You're an attractive guy. You have a business. You guys have been doing this a long time. Okay, we're interesting people. Great. Well, let's learn how to speak of ourselves in a way that makes us charming and makes other people want to know more about us and allows us to have conversation with other human beings and get to know each other. Awesome. What do we call that? Conversation. Being human. But pickup artistry. It's catchy. It was created on the internet. It's always going to be screwed for that reason.
That makes sense. So, Alex, can you tell us a little bit about your experience with ballet?
Yeah. Ballet is the only thing I've ever loved, honestly. So my fitness career was accidental. It was not intentional. It was not something I wanted to do, which probably actually made me better at it, since within a certain irony, when you don't care about something, it allows you to have a greater sense of mastery over it because you're not attached to the outcome. But my original career plan, when I was a teenager, I started dancing when I was 15 and a half, 16. Wanted to be a ballet dancer. I saw ballet one time. It was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. It seemed to me that it was everything in the universe spinning on a single point shoe, and I wanted to be a part of that. I wanted to learn it. I wanted to be immersed in something that was beautiful to me that I thought revealed the better parts of the world and reality. So ballet is what I fell in love with. It's what I have an obsession with this day. That didn't end up happening when I was younger because I had a series of injuries starting at 18, 19. I ruptured my left hamstring tendon, where it attaches to the bone, ischial tuberosity. So kind of tore that off. That cost me a lot of neurological innervation, obviously. And when you tear a muscle tendon like that, it doesn't work so well.
That's pretty nasty.
And then I broke my left foot about a year after that. And that took a very, very, very long time to rehab, since it caused a lot of muscular asymmetries and movement issues that I had to fix. I walked with a cane for over a year, which is a funny thing to think about now, but I had to. I couldn't walk in the leg. So I had to rehab that. That took a very long time. During that time period was when I had my career in the fitness industry, 2009, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. In a certain way, as much as I enjoyed fitness and as much as I do, like I love physicality and health, the career itself, I've never really cared about it. It was something to do because I didn't know what else to do, and I didn't really have much direction in my life beyond that dream. And then I got back into ballet recently, the past so many months, and then after rehab and prehab and prevention and training myself, I realized that I could actually still dance a bit, and I can still improve. So now I'm trying to get myself back to a professional level, which I think I'm probably about at least a year away from. But if I can set myself up to turn 30 and dance at the professional level through my 30s, men can have a very long career in ballet, and I have certain qualities that make me stand out. And plus I know how to keep my body together as well. So that is kind of the ballet story. But ballet, it's just an obsession. It's one of those. It's something that I could wax poetic on for hours. I mean, every detail of it, every nuance of it, every day of history of it. It is something that is all consuming. I'm endlessly enthralled by it. The fitness and having the email list and all that stuff. That's just the mean. That is the means to do my art. That's what that is.
Do you find that you help other people do you help people who do ballet as a result of your position with that, or is that something you keep separate to your?
I keep it somewhat separate. I've had people ask me recently, like, if you thought of trying to merge the two. I'm like, I could, within a certain capacity, but the ballet world is its own world. And within that world, I am who I am there. And, that is who I am to myself. So I don't necessarily try to merge, like, I want to have ballet fitness and ballet, sort of make a business of it that way. My business, what I do now, gives me the financial means to do the art purely as an art. I don't want to, profiteer that in any which way. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant to me what I get paid from it. Salary, whether I get do you want to get a company contract? I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. I just want to train. I want to perform, and that's it. I love working with dancers as dancers. I do have dancers where I can obviously advise people pretty in depth on if you have an injury or if you're trying to take care of your body a bit better or you're trying to improve your technique. Sure, but as far as like I said, monetizing that in some sensibility, not really.
I'm not sure how profitable the overlap between the current niche that you have and ballet is as well. I think it's quite an unusual thing, especially for the kind of persona that I imagine a lot of people would place on you. To have that, it's kind of at odds with the rest of you, and I find that pretty interesting. I'm a gymnast myself as well, which is also kind of people are like, oh, okay, you're a gymnast, are you gay? And it's like, I don't understand why like having sex with men has anything to do with doing gymnastics or ballet, which is even more kind of stereotyped for that.
Well, ballet is. I've always had a personality that's very oxymoronic. I'll say it that way. There's a lot of things about me that I tend to be very much hyper one way or hyper the other way, or I'm hyper everywhere. You could say it that way. Polarity and extremes. But ballet is women. That is what ballet is. It started as the court dances of the French, French court, Louis XIV, all that jazz. But what it turned into was that ballet is femininity in its most civilized and artistic form. You have beautiful women who represent the literal, mathematical, and transcendental and metaphysical apex of beauty. They are perfectly symmetrical. They are dancing on their toes, and every single detail down to the tips of their fingernails counts and can be something that is transcendently pretty. Ballet's women. That's George Balanchine. George Balanchine, the greatest ballet choreographer of all time. He always said that. He was a man, obviously. All the great ballet choreographers are men, because only a man knows how to make women look most beautiful. But he said that ballet is a garden, ballet is women, and that man is the gardener. So as a man in ballet, there's a lot of guys that do it, and they're gay, and because they want to look pretty. I didn't care about looking pretty. I know that I can look majestic when I dance. What attracted me to it was the fact that I'm around women in a capacity where they are at their most beautiful, and I can witness them and present them and create something that is infinite that way, that is eternal. And the way to do that as a man is that you must be an absolute man with a capital M, as I like to say. So if you're going to be a man in ballet, yeah, a lot of guys are gay, but I think if you're going to do it at the highest level, you have to be hyper macho. And the best male ballet dancers have been heterosexual men. Guys like Baryshnikov, who's great today, Roberto Ballet. They are very, very, very masculine, and when you watch them, I don't know that their sexuality is something that you think of. Oh, they're a poof. No one thinks of them that way. They are a man at his apex of masculinity as a being. So, the stereotypes that come with it. I don't care. I've never been mistaken for being gay. And at the same time, the criticisms that come with it. What kind of man does ballet? One that knows himself. When anyone thinks of it relative to me doing it, I can give 0 fucks.
That is cool. You clearly thought this through very much as well, and what you said about the apex of beauty along many strata as well is really interesting. You also made a crazy recovery then. If you were going from walking with a cane for a year, having ruptured your hamstring tendon and broke your foot, and you've returned back to this, and you said a while ago that you'd been training for hypertrophy for a while, and you're at the point now where you're big enough to now switch focus and to kind of maintain that. Can you talk to us a bit about this mindset shift? Because I think a lot of people very easily, and I fell for this when I started competing in powerlifting, and you fall into this kind of mindless acquisition mindset where like the goal is just to keep lifting more weight, and you're like, I haven't actually thought why I'm doing this, and I ended up herniating a disc, but still trying to push through and not really taking stock and being like, hang on, maybe I need to look at the bigger picture.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the rehab was like, that's a story into itself. Like, I mean, I'll just say this in regards to rehab, neurogenesis is a real thing. You can, to a degree that beyond what people would expect, you can regrow nerves. You can recreate neurological innervation. It takes a lot of work. It took a long time. That said, in regards to the training and lifting, when people get into lifting, like I was saying earlier, we like to think of things in terms of A and B. So we want to be big and strong. The way to do that is to lift the most weight. And and obviously it is axiomatic that the strongest guys are the biggest guys. That is true. If you have a lot of muscle, especially if you have a large skeleton, you're going to be strong. That said, if you want to make that your focus, by all means do so. But getting really strong comes with a cost. It does.
Yeah.
Powerlifters are some of the most probably injured athletes of anyone I've ever met. And you don't meet anyone that benches heavy past the age of 40. You barely meet guys that bench heavy past the age of 35. And there's a lot of broken lifters in the world. Many. The time I was working with the EFTS, I met a lot of great people. A lot of them have been world champions in powerlifting. Universally, 100% of them all had injuries that precluded them from lifting heavy. The ones that were older, past their 40s. Or they could still lift heavy, but it was a risk, and they dealt with an injury, every year. Still. I don't know what their quality of life will be when they're 50. And maybe they don't give a shit, and maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe my argument is, pussy argument, and, fuck you, I deadlifted and squat and bench more than you did, and you don't understand. Maybe I don't. But you're going to be alive past 45, hopefully, and you're not going to age too well. For those of us who are not powerlifters, which is, most people are not powerlifters, are there things of merit to be learned from trying to get big and strong progressive overload? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, progressive overload is a universal principle. If you want to do more than you did yesterday, push yourself beyond your prior limit. That applies to every domain of living. At a certain point, though, can you have enough muscle where you actually have enough muscle? Yeah, absolutely you can. And relative to optimal health, relative to what I call like having a optimal relationship with gravity, how do you have an optimal relationship with gravity? You have a well-muscled skeleton that's able to move competently across all the foundational connect chains, squatting, deadlifting. The way you actually more accurately deem it, I think you have hip descension, you have hip ascension, you have lateral and forward, reverse hip shift. You have the ability to project force. You have the ability to create propulsive force towards you. So you can push, you can pull, you can press, you can squat, you can run, You can, maybe you can tumble and crawl a bit. You can jump. You can do these basic movement skills with competency. You have enough muscle to do them, and you have a skeleton where things are developed in proportion to one another. If you can maintain that muscle over the course of your life, you should be really, really healthy, and you should not be inhibited from doing anything. You have freedom of movement. Relative to myself as a dancer, I'm a movement athlete. I have to be able to move at a very high level. Having more mass does not help that past a certain point. It doesn't. It can help it to a point, but past a certain point, it becomes inhibition because it does slow you down, because it does make you turn slower, because it does have an oxygen debt to it. So you have to take all those things into account. It's very easy when people start training to polarize, to use that word again, and turn it into weight in the bar and nothing else matters. 1 rep max and nothing else matters. The downfall to that is that I've got lots of clients and lots of followers and lots of people that have contacted me, and they did 3x5, 5x5 for a year, and they got to a shitty, I benched 215 and I squatted 345 and I deadlifted 410. They're not that strong. They don't look like they lift. They didn't build that much muscle. They're not fucking big and ripped like I thought they were. And they hurt their back and couldn't lift for 3 months because doing nothing but low reps neglects the multitude of other systems that accompany the body, cardiovascular, the energetic capacity of the muscles. You're leaving a whole bunch of muscular development on the table, obviously. The stress on the joints. So they hurt themselves, and they realize, like, shit, I guess that, go heavy or go home didn't really quite work. Yeah, it didn't. I have no idea if that answered the question, but hopefully something in there was helpful.
It certainly does, yeah. And I've noticed that myself, that I've been many weights. I've been up to 90, 91 kilos and as low as 59. I don't know if you do pounds or kilos, Alex, but...
I do, yeah.
Okay, so... And yeah, we spoke to Juji Mufu, who reminds us a little bit of you, actually. He was saying that... this is a guy who is a massive bodybuilder. He's like 110 kilos lean.
He's a freak athlete, that guy. He's great.
He's an amazing athlete, yeah. But he says there was an optimal point where his best tricking or his best acrobatics was at 80 kilos, 180 pounds.
Of course.
And there is kind of an optimal point of like where you have enough muscle for your jump height and your power and tumbling and things to be improved, and then much beyond that, you just get shin splints and you slow yourself down and you get in the way.
Do you think because the thing that I'm noticing from what you both said there was that this is the pursuit of strength in the context of something else. So Alex, you were saying like it more in the context of ballet or sort of general preparedness. And then Yusuf, you're saying in the context of gymnastics or tricking, strength or weight becomes a problem at a certain point. Do you think that, I guess the vast majority of the gym population are probably just looking for use strength or muscle mass as a metric to keep score. And it's
they are.
Else.
Yeah, they are. You have to keep that in mind. Like these things, there's context to all these things. For at the beginning, and I say this in the email list, like I always talk about, like progressive overload is to get big and strong. Because for most people, that's where they're starting out. It's a situation where, if you can get your pulling and your pressing and your squatting strength up, that's going to build the muscle you need. And then in the future, when you get to a point where you have enough, so to speak, of that, then you can, I guess I'd say you shift more to, train for hypertrophy to maintain a lean body mass, since that has 8,000 billion health benefits. Train for connect chain function, where you always have these movement skills. But at the same time, though, you don't want to make it so overly simplistic that you end up trapping people, which is what it happens a lot with, especially young guys and older guys. All ages of people where they've never really worked out before, they aren't lifted. And they get presented these systems, not singling one out, but they get presented systems, 5 reps, everything. You do 3 sets of 5 sets of 5. And it's very dogmatic, and it seems to answer the questions you have as to how come I've never been fit. Well, you never fucking lifted heavy enough. Those stupid bodybuilding routines that you didn't even do right to begin with, they were the wrong things because those guys were all on drugs. It's like, oh, that's why people are bigger than me. They're just on drugs. Everyone that's bigger than me is on drugs. If I just do 5 reps, it will just answer all my problems and get me laid. I'll make $1 million. And
very familiar.
Women, I won't even have to talk to women. They'll just want to sleep with me. So I'm gonna do 3 sets of 5, and they do that, and it doesn't do any of those things for them. And it's like, realize I wrote an article about this with like 3x5, 5x5 documents. Like, no, it didn't do any of those things for you because you had unrealistic expectations and you didn't actually learn anything. You learned how to do 3 fucking lifts. That's it. And guess what? Chicks don't care how much you squat. The only women that care how much you squat are women that are fit chicks themselves, and they probably don't want to sleep with you anyways because they want a guy that's bigger than you, but you're not that big, and they're not even that to be with, so you can't take them out to eat. They're bitchy because they have to meal prep everything, and their whole life revolves around the fucking gym, and they have no real interest, and they're barely even a functional fucking human being outside of that. So maybe all the things you thought were stupid. That's how that goes. That's how it goes. And like, okay, well, what comes next? Like, well, what comes next is you want to use all the rep ranges, be able to do more than one variation of a pattern, start there. And then, like my routines that I sell for people, they're like $20, $30. You know how fucking simple they are? You're going to do a barbell movement, a dumbbell movement, body weight movement, something with machines. You're going to do all the things. You're going to do sets of 5, sets of 8, sets of 10, sets of 20. You're going to use all the rep ranges. Shockingly, by some, godly power, everybody gets really good results from that. Wow. I'm like, I used all the rep ranges basically. That's there. That's this whole secret sauce of every program I have. It's there. That's it.
So that leads us into your unified theory of muscle and strength.
Yeah.
Is that it in a nutshell?
Basically, it is. I mean, unified theory is this. That's why I deemed it, because having been in the personal training industry and having seen the tautological, esoteric bullshit that gets made of movement, I've seen this now, arise over the last some years where we have all these flow movements, and you have animal flow and primal flow and various theories of movement specialists. You're special at moving, which I would assume that makes you bad at moving, but whatever. But like, what makes a person well functioning in regards to movement? Gravity goes straight down, so your skeleton has to be lined up with gravity. If you develop each joint and if you go joint by joint and develop the muscle in a symmetrical way where the strength and length tension relationship between the muscles that surround that joint are proportional to each other, and you do that over the entire body, you are going to move well, and you will be, by some approximation, athletic. That's it. So how do you do that? Look at any muscle. What are the different ranges of motion that moves in? Your wrist goes this way. Your wrist goes this way. Your wrist can circumduct. So if I train those three functions, my wrist should function well. Yeah, basically. But you can also load your wrist. Okay, well, what about, so we have to address the other muscles. Well, your forearm, okay, your forearm twists. It also helps with curling. So it should be able to do those things. You keep using that approach for each joint and each muscle, and then you realize, all right, if I want to have healthy hips, I should be able to do multi-directional lunges. I should be able to deadlift with both legs upon one leg. I should be able to squat, low, maybe not with a lot of weight, but I should be able to squat fully to depth. And then you can do same thing for back, same thing for chest, same thing for shoulders. You do that across the entire body. I mean, it comes down to almost this very much classical bodybuilding training when those guys, classical bodybuilders or even current ones, Steve Reeves, Ronnie Coleman, Jay Cutler, Franco, Zane, hell, you can go even earlier than that. But what do they always talk about? Well, you need to train all the angles. You need to work the angles. It's this the thing. Like, you need to work the angles. What are they really discussing? Because if you look at especially like the classical bodybuilders, let's say 70s, before, they had very athletic-looking physiques. They did. This is before the mass monster era. They were very athletic-looking, and a lot of them were phenomenal athletes. They're phenomenal athletes. You can read about their athletic exploits where, for some of them, they were strongmen, they were acrobats, they could do gymnastics. They were athletic guys. What did they key in on? They realized that if you want to have a functional skeleton, your muscles and joints need to be able to move in all the primary and secondary directions they can move in. That's it. In a nutshell, like that's it. So, something like your shoulder, you can go up, you can go forward, you can go side, you can kind of make a circle. Are you able to do those things? Yes or no? It becomes a very easy way to assess anybody because you can just go, starting at the neck, you can just go through, run through the joint functions. The other thing being the muscle someone has on them will tell you what their joints will do. That's the other factor of it. You can assess someone's movement just by looking at them. Look at what muscle they have and don't have. That's very clear to anybody that has an eye for movement and is well versed in this stuff. So unified theory of movement, it's basically muscle and joint functionality. You develop that comprehensively. I call it like kind of the Magellan principle. Everything makes a circle, all goes 360 degrees. You develop a muscle along its whole axis of movement, develop a joint along its whole axis of movement, you will move well.
Which is a criticism, I suppose, of the 3x5 style programs that are very, siloed down into a few exercises that everybody has to do. There's no individual programming at all. And you end up with an injury, especially when performs.
There's no individuation, and then at the same time, people do have different skeletons. Like myself, my lower back, I have almost no lordotic curve. My spine, and my sacrum, it goes straight down. I don't have an arch to it at all. It's very minor. So heavy squatting for myself, it thrashed my low back, and I end up with a lot of disc issues and a lot of hip issues from it. I actually had some cartilage damage to my left hip that took a while to recover from. So I had to accept at a certain point that I'm not going to be good at heavy squatting. I can take it to a point, but it's not going to work so well. Same thing, then at the same time, I also realized that I'm pretty explosive. I can jump really high. Was I jumping higher when I was squatting heavier? No, I wasn't. I've had female clients where they got very long femurs and they got very short torsos. Putting the barbell on their back doesn't work for them. In the same way you can have guys that have really long arms. Let's say they have, a guy that has really long arms, he's kind of got narrow shoulders. Bench pressing is probably not going to build his chest that well. So you have to take into account people's anthropometrics when you assign them movement. You have to. If you don't do that, you don't know what the fuck you're doing. Could it be that a barbell lift works well for somebody based upon their anthropometric structure? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's why there are those guys with alligator arms that can bench press, and they have huge chests, and they don't know any different because they bench 275 the first time in their gym, and fuck, it worked. Why would they question it? Anything that works for us on the first time we do it, we will never question it. We don't. For those that struggle with it, you have to address, is this exercise the most, efficacious relative to your particular structure? And relative to the programming I do, that's why I've had very superlative results with people over the years. I follow my theory, so to speak. I put into practice, and I make exercise selections based upon the individual in question. That's it. So, you could have a client, you could have a person where the back squat will work the best for building glutes. You could have a person where the hip thrust will work the best for building glutes. You have a person where a front squat is going to be the most effective for developing, their overall legs. You have someone where, maybe we dispense with the squats because they have spinal issues and I don't want to axially load the spine, put pressure that way. So we're just going to lunge and do single leg work. Everything can work given the proper context of the individual. If you try to, generalize that, you can generalize it into patterns. Everyone should be able to squat. Everyone should be able to deadlift in some capacity, and especially with body weight. I think body weight's foundational. But the implements, all of them equally work. They're all equal to each other. Even machines, same thing with machines. The hatred some people have for machines. I don't get it all. It's this very weird thing where we can talk about, machines are, they're unnatural and they put you into these fixed ranges of motion, so on and so forth. And that's not good to do. But then we pick up these perfectly machine precision, perfectly balanced, manufactured lifting implements, and that's more natural somehow. That's more natural to lift. How? There's nothing natural about a dumbbell. You have a set of you got 20, 30 weights in front of you. They're these perfectly calibrated handheld weights. This is more natural to use these. Or same thing with kettlebells. This trains your body in the more whatever the fuck, primal paleo, caveman style, natural style of training. This is the way it's supposed to be. It's a fucking weight with a handle on it. I'm like, okay, you carry groceries. I've never fucking kettlebell snatched my grocery bag, fucking ever. The only thing I've ever fucking kettlebell snatched is a fucking kettlebell. That movement into itself. I'm like, what is that good for? I have no idea, but it's cool that you can do it.
It's a good point. You have to go and move a bit of furniture, and you're like, bloody hell, this is hard. And you think, well, actually, it's because all the training I've done is done on a bar that is perfectly calibrated and made with knurling to fit my hand, and the diameter of the bar is the perfect width. And actually, if you were to deviate and use a bar that's slightly thicker than normal or whatever, max just goes down by 30-40%. So yeah, you're right. These things have been manufactured for convenience to train with. So to say that they're functional...
which is great. Yeah, it's great for safety. It's still functional being muscular. It's not as if the strength you build in the gym is not functional strength. I've always found that fascinating. Where it's especially with people that don't like hypertrophy or machine bodybuilding work, where it's like, well, it's not functional muscle. I'm like, how do you add muscle tissue that doesn't contract? It doesn't make any sense. Now, you obviously, like you just said, like you can go to move furniture and realize, you know what, I'm not as strong as I thought I was, or so adept. And it's always kind of like the blue collar, like like the farmer boy criticism. And that's kind of true. Like, I remember I was in Puerto Vallarta once in Mexico, and I saw this gentleman on the beach who had one of the most muscular backs I've ever seen. This guy was just knotted top to bottom. You know what he did all day? He pulled in boats from the water. And he did this probably 10, 12 hours a day. Fucking lats, traps, rhomboids. I'm like, if you were to take a guy to a gym, he might probably lift the same weight that everybody else lifted. Maybe he'd row the 100-pound dumbbell, and he'd be like, "What the fuck? What is this?" That's and not to idolize that we should all be pulling boats in, but it just gives you some of the practicality that muscles for movement. So you should be good at moving with the muscle that you have.
And I suppose that guy is going to be training effectively with multiple rep ranges, multiple weights.
Probably.
And unilateral stuff.
And all the time.
Yeah. He probably has big boats and small boats, and maybe the boats are loaded, some are empty. Maybe some of them he has to pull all the way, and maybe some of them he has to move position. Like you have to be multi-talented or multi-variability.
And if he only did 3 sets of 5, it would take him ages to get a boat in as well.
He probably. Well, I mean, that's the irony of this powerlifting. I know it's like I'm critiquing powerlifters. I mean, I have so much respect for those guys, but just I knew so many of them, and they weren't good at actual things. They were good at lifting the bar, but like if you were to ask them, like, let's go, walk for 30 minutes, they'd get winded. Like.
I think especially
some guys. Here's the thing: there has been a trend now in powerlifting, I will say, where there's more lifters today that are coming up that they are more. People will hate this word, but like they're more balanced. They take care of their joint health. They try to be more athletic. They do more GPP. They're not like the big fat slow lifter, with 2 torn pecs. But at the same time, like with that, for a lot of the guys that get into it, they fall into that. They fall into that gulf where they just like I said before, I think that's the be all end all, and they end up being less athletic for it.
I think especially Elite FTS, Westside Barbell is probably the most extreme it could possibly get. So you've been around some of the very tail end of the population. Yeah, no,
I have been on I have known and been friends with the guys at the very end of the tail. I mean, they are an extreme category. And I guess the other factor too, they have to consider on a meta level. Who do you want to learn from? Can you learn from extreme outliers? Probably. They're probably going to have some good insights, certainly if they've trained a lot of people. At the same time, you also have a sense of paradigm blindness where you are an extreme outlier. Your experiences and your way of being are not representative of the vast majority of people that train. So you have to take that context into account with where you're getting information from. Somebody that trained their whole life to squat 1,000 pounds and has done nothing else and divorced their wife and doesn't see their kids, but they want to squat 1,000 pounds, I'm sure that guy does know a lot about how to squat 1,000 pounds. I don't know if I would take any advice from him or anything else. Again, context.
He may also only be able to squat 1,000 pounds because of proportions, genetics.
If he's 6'4" and his wrist is the diameter of your kneecap, there's probably a reason why he's that strong beyond just his program that he did.
It's maybe a bit different. Too. Alex, it's been fantastic talking to you, and I think we'll wrap it up. I don't want to take much more of your time. Do you want to just tell us a bit more about how people can find out more about you? And I think you've got a book coming out as well, if you want to quickly mention that.
Oh, yeah. So I have a book coming out next week. It's short, little pithy book, Maxims and Axioms, The Untaught Truths of Adulthood. It was I live tweeted the whole book on Twitter.
I saw excerpts of it, and it looks good. Yeah. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, it was. Very. I've been reading a variety of people. It's kind of like this Tale of Inspired, where I got into this idea of this writing sound sort of as little short truths, just things you notice, recognize, patterns, axioms, like I said, and then I compiled all of it, and it came out to I think it was over 300 or 400 over the past year or so that I wrote down, and then I tweet all of them out at once. The book comes out next week. It's just one of those sort of off the shelf, read a few pages books, and it has some like I said, some effective truths in there. In terms of accessibility, the easiest place to find me, email list. So my full name, Alexander Juan Antonio Cortes. If you type that in, go to my website, you can sign up for the email list. I email every day, every single day, sometimes twice a day. The email list is a really broad mix of fitness, health, mentality, mindset, masculinity, marketing, how to write, how to find purpose. So there's a lot of categories. It doesn't have any straightforward category to it. It falls under the umbrella of what I just deem, how to be a healthy person. You have to develop all these different parts of yourself. But the email list is the easy place to get in touch with me directly. You can always email me back. I'll reply. I'm also on Twitter, obviously, AJA_Cortes. I have a very active Twitter account. So I have daily AMAs on Twitter. I have daily Periscope Ask Me Anythings on Twitter. I do live streams a lot. So that's another place. That's probably the best place of accessibility, since I'll probably answer you within a minute if you hit me up there. But those two places, the Twitter and the email list. Oh, then also I do have a podcast that is bi-monthly, come out usually about 2 episodes a month. The Art of Health, and again, the easiest place to find that is just usually Twitter, since I'll tweet out the podcast whenever I make them.
Great. We'll put links to all of that in the show notes. Alex, it's been fantastic. Thanks very much for coming on.
My pleasure.
Everything from this episode of the Propane Fitness Podcast.